Hi everyone, welcome to episode 5 of Zebra Spotlight. I'm here today with Pawel Pogorzelski, an accomplished director of photography, originally from Poland. He was raised in Montreal from the age of 2, and he graduated from Concordia University with a degree in communication and media. Pawel began his career as a director of photography with his first Canadian science fiction film, Sigma, by Jesse Heffring. In 2008, he moved to Los Angeles and joined the American Film Institute. He's worked with Ari Aster on a number of short films before completing his first feature, Hereditary, in 2018. His most famous work, most recently, was the film Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk, and it received worldwide critical acclaim.
I worked for some very dangerous people. Everybody get to the basement.
What is happening?
Don't call 911.
Pawel, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
First thing I've got to say, it's so hard to get hold of cinematographers. So what is it with you guys?
Very good question. I don't know. We're just busy, I guess. If we're not shooting, we're prepping. And then if we're, just busy.
And now you've had a very hectic week. So you've been shooting for 6 days on straight?
Yeah, I'm shooting for Warner Brothers DC Blue Beetle. It's a new superhero movie, and we're I think halfway now. 6 days. We finished yesterday, Saturday, with some just trying to catch up, get as much done as possible before we leave to Puerto Rico next week. So there's a bunch of sets that we have to finish up and pick up and finish before we leave for the next bit.
It sounds incredibly hectic, but also very exciting.
Very exciting. It's the cast is amazing. The director's amazing. It's just challenging, exhausting with having a second unit running also all the time behind us or next to us. So trying to, after 12 hours of doing my shoot, I go in for a few hours to make sure second unit is rolling properly and, doing what we want them to do. And so long days, but hopefully all worth it and people get to really enjoy this one.
Absolutely. Now, before we discuss a bit more about the day job, let's go all the way back. And I want to know what inspired you into filmmaking. It
was my dad who prompted me to try photography, and because I was doing sciences, as most of my family and friends were into sciences like health sciences and physics and chemistry. So I didn't know when I was 17 what to do, and I just went there and I couldn't understand any of that. And my dad, when we were going on trips, I would take photos, and he was also an avid videographer, and he saw that I had an inkling for it. So he's like, oh, why don't you take a class of it? And I took a class of photography and I loved it. I loved the people there. I loved the creativeness that was happening, and I just picked it up right away, and it became natural. Loved the challenges, and I understood it. And then found this video class, and that there's this thing called cinematographer, and right away I knew that's what I wanted to do. Was interested in directing. I was like, oh my God, we can do photos, but with moving images, and I'm in charge of the lighting. I thought that was so cool, and at 19 fell in love with that and just pursued it.
Wow, it's interesting because I did sciences as well at the same age, and I became a physician, but always wanted to be a filmmaker.
Right.
So I'm glad you pursued your passion, because look what we're celebrating today.
Yeah. It was thanks to my dad, who kept pushing me even when I wanted to quit, at 35. And before Hereditary came out, it was just very, it was hard when you're 35 and barely making any money. And my wife was in Montreal because she's studying to be a doctor, and I was in LA. So we had, you're there alone and pushing for your dreams, but you're getting older and older, and you don't see the light. And it was very hard to be like, okay, there's got to be a time when I give up and do something else. Like, this might not turn out. Not everyone gets the chance. But, you know, just to skip a bit, like I did get, like, when I went to AFI, I asked, you know, like the life or whatever. I was like, okay, my one dream of going there is to meet my directing partner. This is what I want from this. And I did. I met Ari, and here he was waiting to get his first feature made. So I said, okay, I'm gonna wait until he makes his first feature, see if I can shoot it, because, you know, there's a chance that the producers, investors might not want me to shoot it. And if I get to shoot it and it takes off, then I keep going. And if it doesn't, then that's where I draw my line. But yeah.
Now, you raised a couple of quite important points there. So if there was any message for young filmmakers, I mean, you know, we see Hollywood films and everything seems very glitzy and glamorous and the red carpet and Oscars and whatnot. And then you're thinking, yeah, I want to be a filmmaker, and you'll get loads of money and fame from it. But you've touched on a couple of really important points there. So if you're advising young people going into the film industry, what sort of advice would you be giving them?
I think the first thing is to set a path. I think, you know, of what you wanted to do. For me, it was always narrative filmmaking. Never interested really. My understanding of film is through, or visual language is through story. I need a script. I need a narrative, an emotional connection to my visuals. So I'm not very good with music videos or commercials where it's, you know, make things look good or make things look cool. I don't really get inspired by that. For me, I get really inspired when I read a script and get a whole emotional journey. And so for me, it was following that path. I was like, whatever I do, I want to push myself to be known as a narrative filmmaker. Because I've seen on my journey older DPs that were in their 50s, you know, as I was crewing to try to make some money. And they were successful commercial DPs, and they were maybe becoming tired of that world and wanted to go into narrative. But it's quite hard of a jump. It's very easy in this industry to get pigeonholed. Even after Hereditary, I did a big push not to do too many horror movies, because you can get easily pigeonholed into that world. So it's very important to keep a path of, this is where I want it, this is what my dream is, you know. And obviously you'll do little things on the side to learn, you know, to get to try. But always with keeping like, oh, this is, you know, I want to be doing these kind of movies. And if you keep that goal and persist and be patient and work hard at it, then I think you get it. You get there. I did. So I think it's keeping, you know, there's some instances where I was offered to operate on this gaming job and make tons of money, or Ari was like, hey, let's shoot a short. And we couldn't change the dates because the actor's availability. And I was like, all right, well, let's shoot a short and let's put our money that I don't have on a credit card and make a short. But it was like, that was like the decision. Like, I want to be investing in narrative filmmaking and not, and now it paid off, you know, like definitely was poor from, you know, late 20s to late 30s. But now it pays off, and now you're like, wow, I wouldn't have changed anything. Wow. Yeah.
And you know, you mentioned that traveling and long shoots, long weeks are part and parcel of your work. How does that take a toll on sort of young families? How do you work through that sort of work?
I don't know. I just have an 11th, which is almost 1-year-old baby, and I've been with her for 2 months only, so it's hard already.
Wow.
She was born, and I 2 weeks later started Ari's next movie, till, you know, for however that long took, and then I had 2 months off and then started this film. So it's hard, but I don't know. She came to set a couple of times, and it's so cool. You know, she came and we had all these. You get to come to a place where there's all these people working on creating magic, creating a story, and it's so cool to hold her and be like, look at this, and how cool is this? And there's something so beautiful about that. That's very rewarding. And I don't see myself doing anything else. So I think it's finding that balance now with, you know, with the family. And I think choosing what projects I do and how many I do, take some time off.
So careful balancing act.
Yes, careful balancing act. Yeah.
So we never know. Could have a young female filmmaker in our midst,
right.
with that influence.
Yeah, yeah. I understood now when I started seeing some of the DPs I looked up to suddenly fade for a little while, and then like, what happened to them? And then they come back and like, oh, they had a kid and they wanted to be more with the kid. Now I understand, like, oh yeah, you suddenly want to be there.
Now, talking about some of the DPs, I'm always really interested of who inspired you in terms of cinematography or directors in your early career. Who were the people that you were looking up to, thinking, I'd love to shoot like that, for instance?
I loved, I think a very big influences for me were Anthony Mantle. I really loved, because of how versatile and how brave he was, and created still gorgeous images with a whole bunch of different stories and different cameras, and just testing and just being very brave was really cool. I love Rodrigo Prieto from Mexico, who is just a chameleon, very elegant photography, and just always so good. Some older, Polish cinematographers were really great. Whoever worked with Kieślowski, was it Ijak or was it, God damn it, who else? With the red, white, and blue. It was Ijak too. That some whoever, like those were like, the Decalogue. That poetry in Polish cinema is really, really stunning. Those cinematographers, Piotr Sobocinski, why am I forgetting some names? But then there's, Dariusz Konji, who was absolutely amazing. And I started doing portraits on film on my Hasselblad. I got a Hasselblad, and I started doing portrait work and with film that's like 160 ISO, and started realizing how much light was needed to get an exposure. And that made me like really appreciate the cinematographers and what they were able to create back in the days. Those beautiful images, Gordon Willis and Conrad Hall, just fantastic people. Robbie Mueller from Germany, who was also so good. I think they were pushing boundaries. Vilmos Zsigmond, they had to burn in things into the negative to get the look. Whereas today, it's so safe. You can create a look, but then in DI, you can change it all. Back then, you had to fight the studio for the look and make sure the director was on your side, and together you're, forcing something that was being burnt in the camera. It is so cool and so brave. And keeping that continuity of the image throughout the day, where now you're like, oh, the color shifting, we'll fix it in DI, bring the magentas down, up. Back then you had to know your filters. Wow. It was just like, wow, these guys were like geniuses.
Now, just in terms of filmmaking and training in general, what do you feel you gained from attending the American Film Institute? My question's regarding filmmakers who just want to do things off the fly or just gain experiences. What would your recommendation be if you want to pursue a career?
I think there's, I really believe there's no right way to become a filmmaker. There's no one way. I think that the best thing is to be surrounded by, to be on set. You know, I came up the electric route where I pulled cables and always having DP in my mind. You know, there's always watching and asking questions, even asking like, you know, why were they leveling the tracks for the dolly? Oh, because, you know, the simplest things were like everything was, but understanding every part of it was really important for me. And asking all the questions like, why would you use this flag? Why are we putting this? You know, always asking, being a bit annoying, but observing and asking questions on set, being on set was very, I know there's so many things that I use now that I've kept from those days and are in the back of my head still, that tricks that just kept picking up from all these people. And I think for film school, the best thing out of the film school for me was seeing all the other phenomenal DPs in my year that were there and seeing how much talent there is around, so that I never take anything for granted. You know, like I really work hard and it keeps pushing me and keeps driving me, because I know how, you know, there's so many other great people and I want to be as good as them. And then meeting the directors, I mean, for me, was meeting Ari Aster was the best thing. You know, I got to meet him there and become a friend and a partner with him. So that was very important. And I think, you know, learning filmmaking at a school, I don't know if you learn that much, you get access to equipment. It's really, best learning is shooting, and then shooting stuff, watching it, and seeing the mistakes that you've made and trying it again, and then shooting again and trying something and being okay, and then try again. It's the best film school, I think.
Let's go on to the phenomenon that was Nobody. So this was a surprise release, and I think obviously one of the biggest surprises was seeing Bob Odenkirk in a role that you'd associate, you know, with Keanu Reeves, a John Wick movie. And I remember seeing the trailer thinking, this is insane. I can't wait to watch this film. And I think it was released towards the end of lockdowns, you know, globally, and people started going to the movie theaters again. I missed it at the movie theater, but this is one of the earliest releases on Ultra HD 4K Blu-ray.
Right.
And I remember getting a bunch of guys together and we thought we're going to do the premiere of this film at home, and it blew me away. The whole thing was just phenomenal.
Right.
How did you get involved in making this film?
I think my agent sent me the script, and I never thought I read the script like, oh, okay, cool. This reads like a John Wick movie. I wasn't very interested in making an action movie, but then I spoke. He's like, oh, just speak with the director. Like, he's really cool and young Russian director, and he does really fun things. I was like, okay, fine. I'll talk to him. And I spoke to him, and he was like, yeah, I want to make this like a Korean movie. I want to make it very colorful, and I wanted to be brave with it, and you know. And I was like, okay, I like where you go. And his energy was so cool and great and intoxicating. I was like, all right, I'm in. Like, I want to work with this guy, and I want to see how far we can push it together. And yeah, it was great working with him. We would work 7 days a week because we're in Winnipeg. You know, both of us were our wives, his wife was in Russia, mine was in Montreal. So we would just work Saturday, Sunday on shot listing and location scouting, and just have everything dialed down because it's such a small budget and short time. We had like 30 days to shoot it, something crazy like that. So we would just make sure we were super prepped and knew exactly what we wanted. And it was a great collaboration.
And this was your first action movie?
Yes.
So
yeah.
How was your approach? I mean, how did things change between what you'd done before and approaching shooting an action movie?
I think what hasn't changed is I take every, I don't take any movie as a genre movie. I look for the, like I said before, I love the emotional connection. So I take it as a drama for me, everything. And what is the drama here in this movie? And I tell that story visually. That's my thread. And, you know, on this film, then we had a whole bunch of, you know, the John Wick people that worked on that, and Atomic Blonde, that are there and start working the action scenes with you. And then the director is very involved of how he wants it to feel. And then you come, and so it's a very collaborative to shoot the action bits. It's a collaborative piece where they would come in and be like, you know, I think the camera should go here for this. And we'd watch previs, they would shoot stunt previs and be like, okay, but what if we do this moment? And so it's a very growing process that it's a mixture of everyone in it. The director has shots ideas, I have shots ideas, the stunt people have shots ideas, the producers have shots ideas, and we all massage it together in the stunt previs. And then even when we shoot, we keep adding, and it's, for me, it was no ego. It's like, these guys have done it so well so many times. If they tell me to put the camera here, I'm going to put the camera there. It's going to work great. And, you know, if they add another camera, it was just a very collaborative team effort to get it. And that's what's nice about it, because I have never done it. I was like, I'll put my trust in them and watch it and be like, oh, you know, if there's something I feel could be better, I'll suggest it. Sometimes they liked it. Sometimes I did some push. I was like, oh, let's push the camera here. And then we'd watch it, like, they were like, yeah, but we missed the action. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Let's not do it. So it was a great learning of like, let's all let them do what they do best. And I can step back in those and learn. And I think that was really great. And same on this movie. You know, sometimes the VFX supervisor who's done many bigger movies will come and say, Pawel, we should do this, or maybe have more interactive lighting. And I'd be, okay, great. Like, you've done this very successfully, and I'm here to learn also.
And the interesting thing, although there are similarities to the John Wick movies, it looked very different to the John Wick movies. And I know for a fact you like to test your lenses for certain scenes. So just tell me, walk through that with me in terms of how did you achieve that stark difference? What were you trying to do?
I think for every single movie I shoot, I'll do a whole camera test. And it's something I never look forward to, because it's very long and tedious and difficult. But I am very zeroed in on the look that we've talked about with the director for the movie. So it's not clear, but we have an inkling of what it wants to look like. And so I'll take all the cameras, and, you know, on this movie, we knew we wanted to do anamorphic. So I'll take as many anamorphic lenses as I can get my hands on, and some spherical, just in case we are wrong. And then I shoot tests that are, you know, close to what like we said, oh, we want these kind of colors. So I'll shoot tests that kind of wants to look like the movie, or what I think it wants to look like. And then we'll watch all that footage on a big screen projected. And then, you know, something will always speak to us. And I remember on this one, the director really wanted to shoot on Alexa. And I was like, let me just do my tests and let's watch it. And we watched the test of the red helium at 1250 ISO. I pushed it a little bit and with the Hawk lenses, and he was like, whoa, that's the look. There's something in it that was a bit more dirty, was a bit more raw. And we reacted right away, both of us, when we saw it. And, you know, he's like, wow, I never thought I'd shoot a movie with the red camera. And I was like, yeah, that's why I test everything, because you never know what surprises you get.
The other fabulous things, you got to shoot Bob Odenkirk, who, if you're watching Better Call Saul, his facial expressions, it's wonderful to get a great subject with such expression to help tell the story. What was it like working with Bob?
He was amazing. He was amazing. There was an outbreak of some kind of flu. There's something, it was like 2019, end of 2019. So I know it wasn't the coronavirus, but we all got like sick for a few days, and I kept sending my crew, and I got sick. It was the hardest 2 days where everyone was, I sent some of my operators and some stayed, but they would rotate, but I had to stay and keep shooting. And then that last scene with the shootout between, just before Bob Odenkirk puts that bomb on the shield, he was sick, like he was vomiting into a bucket, and he never complained. He just, let's keep going, like not even making a deal out of it. Like you wouldn't know. I wouldn't have known if his people didn't come to me. He's like, oh my God, he's so sick. I'm like, really? He looks great, he looks fine. He's like, no man, he's vomiting in the bucket. Like it's like, he's just such a professional, like so dedicated. It was great. It was great.
Wow. Let's talk about a couple of the scenes. So, I mean, one of the most famous scene that features in the trailer is the fight scene on the bus.
Yeah.
And you guys used a real bus. So what were the challenges of shooting that whole scene in a bus?
It was a real bus. There's no wild walls, and we kind of wanted that to like not to feel that we're in that bus, and it was just the previs, just getting, you know, when they're building the fight sequence, the stunt coordinators, we wanted them to build it in a confined space that we don't get to move walls and because we only had 3 nights to do that whole sequence. We wanted to just keep it to the action. Let's not, you know, for lighting, I just had tubes in the bus that I could just dim up and down depending on where the camera was. And that's it. And it's just so we can move fast and get the shots. And so it was just planning it to accommodate our schedule and the confines of that sequence. And I think that was the success for it, was not, you know, not trying to get something that was impossible for us to get.
And similarly, the first break-in into the house, was that a set constructed, or was that a real house?
That was on the stage.
Yeah.
That was on the stage, and just of all the damage that we were doing. And that was so fun. Again, like these stunt people and Greg Rementer, our stunt coordinator, is just so good at creating all these beats with Ilya, the director, who had a lot of input into it. It was a lot of fun to shoot that. And Bob Odenkirk, just such a badass.
I think we all saw Bob in a very different light after the film.
Yeah.
Not to give too much away, but can we expect more of the same in future?
I think so, yeah.
That's a bit of a hint.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Now, you're working on some very, very exciting projects. What can we look forward to next coming from yourself?
I think I'm very excited for Ari's next film. I haven't seen the cut yet, but that was a tough shoot with Walking. But Walking Phoenix was just, can't wait to see it cut together and see how it looks and what story it tells. Very excited for that. I'm very excited for Blue Beetle to come out. I think what Angel is doing, the director, has a very unique feel and flair for a action hero movie. There's a lot of soul and heart in it. It's very beautiful. Yeah, it's a very beautiful, heartfelt film. That's why I took it. I also didn't think I would do a superhero movie, but when I read the script, it really spoke to me. Being an immigrant, having a dad to work hard. It's also an immigrant story for the Latin community, but it's so universal. The hardship you have to do when you're an immigrant and in a new country and you don't really fit. You're far away from your family. You work 14, 16-hour days just to provide to the family. All that stuff really spoke to me, and my dad supporting me to be a cinematographer. It was almost like that's my superpower in some way, and there was this support for me to get there, and I thought that was so beautiful, and it's kind of represented in this film, the family support. I don't think I'd be able to be here if I didn't have the family support from my dad, my wife, my wife's mom. They really supported me through the hardship and the years, and kept pushing me to keep going. Even with AFI, I was like, there's no way I can do this. It's so expensive. Like, I don't have the money. And I've been saving up for it. And I was like, did the math. I was like, there's no way I can afford it. And they're all like, we'll figure it out. Let's go. Let's push you there as a family. And this is what you're meant to do. And it was just so beautiful. And all that stuff is kind of in the movie as well, in different ways. And I think it's, to be so fortunate to have a family that pushes you and supports you. It's great.
Really look forward to seeing that. Are there any dream projects that you'd love to be involved with, or directors that you'd love to work with in future?
I don't know, because I haven't read them yet. There's so many surprises that come my way that I don't know. Like, I didn't ever expect to do a hero movie, superhero movie, and I'm really happy I'm doing this one. Same thing with Nobody. I'm really proud of that movie, and I never thought I'd do that. So I don't really have any expectations.
Just come what may.
Yes, I just want to work with people that are brave, that want to push the boundaries. I definitely don't want to. If someone comes to me and says, "Hey, let's do that that movie," I'll be like, "No, I don't want to do." What I like about this movie is that we're able to find our own look, our own language, and I have support from the director for that. That's what I'm very interested in, and people who are inspired by other works. So am I. I'm inspired by other photographers, painters, cinematographers, but I want to, with all that, find out what's my look. So I want to work with people who are like that and are brave and look for something unique and their own, their own stamp on the work.
I can envisage Quentin Tarantino and yourself working on something exciting then in future.
Oh, I don't know. He has Rob Richardson, who's such a master. He's so good. I'd be also scared of working with Quentin Tarantino.
Or maybe Ryan Gosling. He's a bit more gentle.
No, just scared of like, wow, like what a great filmmaker.
Oh, dear.
I don't know. Yeah.
Now, before we let you go, as a filmmaker, I hope that you get time to watch TV shows and movies yourself, of which I'd love to know what are your favorite things that you like to watch or movies.
I love the Rick and Morty. I love watching Rick and Morty. I think it's so hilarious and so good. I think HBO has some really cool shows right now. I watched Tokyo Vice. I thought that was really cool. Chernobyl was really amazing. That show was really amazing. So I think for me, it was like HBO has some really fun shows. And I think for movies, the Criterion Channel has the best selection. I don't know if you've seen Come and See, the Russian war movie. Amazing portrayal of war. Amazing because how disturbing it is, how disgusting it is, how there's like a solitude to it. It's just such a great portrayal of war and how unnecessary it is and how cruel it is. Taxidermy, Hungarian film, that's just absurd. Yeah, I think just the Criterion channel has so many great movies there. Watching again, why did I watch? Oh, for Ari's film, we watched 8.5 by Fellini, and you're like, wow, this is still so good and so amazing. Yeah. And then sometimes it's nice to watch just something, but that's like the TV shows. Euphoria is amazing. Yeah, I think HBO is doing some really great stuff. That's like entertaining and smart.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's a wrap. So thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate your time and your extremely busy schedule. As I said, it's very rare to get cinematographers to do an interview. So, I was really taken aback when you responded. Nobody is perhaps my favorite release of last year's surprise release, and it looks fabulous. So congratulations to you on your work on that. We can't.
Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant, such a treat. And we can't wait to watch the new DC production. So Pawel, thank you very much indeed, and I hope we'll chat again in future after future projects.
I'd love that. Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
You're most welcome. Take care.